Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And for those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future work. A little darker today because it's a little cloudy here in San Francisco. And I'm here with Cathay, who will tell us about Dumpling Club, but she has a special area of expertise. And I think one of the reasons why we're so excited to talk with you is because you're one of these rare people who has both worked in an occupation that you made for yourself, pursuing something you love. And I mean, maybe this was true for your prior employment too, but and worked in the tech industry, information job, Google, et cetera. So today's question, and thank you for being here, is should I leave my job to pursue my passion?
Thanks so much for having me, Roy.
And thank you.
I'm also in San Francisco, but I have stationed myself next to a window, so hopefully that'll work with the lighting.
Yeah.
I was at Google for 11, 12 years, and I loved my time at Google as well. But then I left, and about 2 years ago, right before the start of the pandemic, I left and started Dumpling Club, which is primarily a subscription business that delivers meal kits with artisanal dumplings and side dishes all throughout San Francisco. Yeah.
Following as we speak, I have a daughter who may be very excited about this. So sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And I have gotten this question so many times since I started Dumpling Club, and I get a lot of, how do I do what you do? How do I go and do that and make that happen? And it seems like everything's going really well. And it's interesting because I really dislike this question. Really dislike this question.
I like questions that rub people the wrong way.
Because of the implication that you've got sort of this like STAD job situation you've got going on over here, where it may offer you some of the things you want in your life, but you have to actually leave it and discard those things in order to go and do what really gets you, and makes you happy. And and Dumpling Club is my exercise in building something that is sustainable for me, for my family, is what I want out of my life. And I would hope that I didn't have to leave everything that I really loved about Google to go do Dumpling Club.
But did you?
So,
because I mean, I guess one of the reasons I think there's a missing word actually in this question, in the sense that to me, the missing word is how, because I think a lot of people, it's implied that they would like to do something that they are passionate about just by virtue of asking this question. And so what they're really trying to get at is the trade craft of how to make it happen. And so your story is valuable in that, and any tips you have, based on your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that to sort of continue riffing on that, the question a lot of times is, I'm going to leave something that I know and I'm comfortable with and potentially go into something that I don't know anything about. And that's scary. And so it's less about, should I leave and go pursue my dream and have my dream? But more about, am I going to be able to take this big risk, and how do I wrap my head around taking a really, really big risk in my career? Because that's how I view it. Is I don't view it as, I have left everything and now I'm going to go and create something completely different for myself. I more think of it as, should I take a risk? And I unequivocally tell people when they ask me this question, yes. The answer is yes, you should do it. And the hardest thing for people is hearing you can do it. There's a lot of this sense of, well, I might not be able to do this. I might not be able to do that. There's like these capabilities that you're missing. For me, people like to ask me, did you go to culinary school? Was that what made it happen for you? Was that you knew you could do it because you had gone to culinary school? And I didn't go to culinary school, and I did it anyway. And it's
because teach how to make dumplings in culinary school? I thought they only taught French sauces.
Actually, I think they now teach a very wide variety of things, which is great. But and then I'll also get asked like if I like went back to China and did one of those like hand pull noodle courses or things like that and got a certification. And no, but the answer is just that I decided I was going to do it, and so I did it. And I think that's where like people get stumped when I say this, when I say like, The answer is just to do it. You want to do it? Do it. And people get really stumped. And I think that paralysis is really interesting. That's like that moment. And for me, it took me a year.
Well, one of the reasons why I think people often get stumped, and I'm curious about how you overcame this, is they think of it as an all or nothing, which you were alluding to. And one of the reasons I think we think about that is we have the LinkedIn model of a career in our head. First, I do this job, and then it stops, and then I start the other job. And in reality, I think it's often, we've talked about this before here, more like a portfolio, ever-shifting portfolio of activities. And oftentimes, what I think would be the difference maker is if folks realize that it's possible to start a little bit at a time. It's possible to start on the side sometimes. I don't know how you did it yourself, but how did you manage that transition?
Yeah, I think so. This is where my tech background comes in, because one thing that I've taken from that experience in those years is that everything can be piloted. Everything. You can pilot something, and it doesn't have to be a huge pilot. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to go the very next day and start a dumpling shop, sign a lease on a restaurant. You don't have to write
your Jerry Maguire memo.
I don't have to do that. I don't have to sign a space, name on the dotted line, anything, put down $1 million to start a restaurant in San Francisco tomorrow. What I can do is find 15 people who like to eat dumplings and who want to Venmo me $60. This is exactly how I started. I said, just Venmo me $60 and I'll send you 4 weeks worth of dumplings. And you just tell me what you liked about it and what you didn't. And that was the beginning. And then that snowballed and that turned into more and more things. But the answer is that you can always pilot something, and you should find the cheapest, easiest. And I don't mean cheap as in, I just mean like from a cost efficiency perspective, like the thing that is easiest for you to do, and go out and do it and try it. And you won't know until you try.
Eric Ries has this blog post that he wrote that was titled "Don't Launch." And I think what it reflects is that there isn't even necessarily some big, huge difference between the test phase and the doing it phase. My co-founder of the company that I started, she used to say her definition of success was every week, if you're slightly more committed than the week before, then you're succeeding. And it's like, yeah, at some point we incorporated, and at some point we raised a little money, and at some point, and before you know it, you've got Dumpling Club SF, and you have a wait list for people who I just signed up on, by the way.
Yes, so it's 300 people long. So, but I will.
I insist on no special treatment. I just want to get exactly what I would get in line. And I just say, I think that's a really powerful piece of tradecraft. So thank you for that. And, for those who are watching for the first time, the reason we call this not advice is because we're not saying you must do this or you should do this. Everybody, your own life. We're offering our own experiences as ways of helping people understand the different ways of doing it. And so, Cathay, any final thoughts before we close?
Yeah, I think that the one thing I also would say is, when you're asking this question to yourself and you're thinking about doing it, make sure you're also thinking about the fact that you're coming from a place of privilege, probably, by asking this question. It's something that when you can go out and actually choose what you want to do, that's a very, very special thing. And just, take advantage of that.
I love that. I mean, I think that that's really wise. Many of us who have had the privilege to have good educations and stable families, and whether we came from wealth or not, I didn't, but but nonetheless had basically every other advantage you could possibly have, and not to mention gender, race, all kinds of other factors play in. We end up in this kind of institutionalist prize-seeking mentality of like, well, I remember I once interviewed with this person. I asked them what the proudest moment was in their career, and they said, well, it was when I got promoted from VP to SVP. And I was like, what's the S for? I didn't know. I was like, wow, it just struck me as a really sad view on life. So thank you, Cathay, for giving us a happier view on life.
Thank you for having me.
And we'd love to have you again on any questions that you want to talk about. And for folks who are watching, we get these questions from you. So feel free to challenge, ask. We can be found anywhere you use the internet, and to be continued.
Thanks.